Hello and welcome to Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a favorite returning to the podcast this week. Longtime guest Emma Brockway has returned to the show.
Hey,
How's
y'all.
it going?
It's good to be here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yay, Emma, we're so glad to have you on to talk with us about The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom hype.
I'm so excited.
We're about a month, less than a month, actually. By the time this comes out, what, 3 weeks? I don't know. I can't do math.
Pretty close. It's the 12th of May.
From it, we got a new trailer. So we're going to break that all down as our main topic. And we got lots of other news, some of which is also related to The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. But also some other stuff. Sega acquired somebody, which is interesting. We got a Final Fantasy State of Play. Some Nintendo, some interesting Mario movie stuff, some other Mario related news, and Nintendo Live is coming to America. We'll talk about all that and more. But before we get into anything like that, how are we doing? How was your week? David, we'll start with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It was a pretty fun weekend. We hung out a little bit this weekend, Patrick.
I feel like we hung out a lot because it was kind of like multiple nights.
Yeah, well,
one of which was virtual, but
look, hanging out in my chat on Twitch is a parasocial relationship, Patrick, and that's something that you're going to have to come to terms with.
That's true.
But no, we did a little hang IRL. Funny story. So me and Patrick got together. No. I am too, and I'll explain in just a second. So me and Patrick got together to go to an indie game developer meetup here in Austin called Games Y'all. And Patrick was going to come scoop me, and we were going to go over to the Museum of Human Achievement to go to this meetup. And so we get out there, and it's Fusebox Fest or something else. And that is not what we meant to go to. It was very nice. There was a lot of pretty lights.
I've always wanted to go to Fusebox Festival.
Yeah.
It's like a cool.
Now you have.
It's an edgy theater festival.
But we basically went home, and I was like, well, I don't think I'll be able to go to this anyway because I've got a party tomorrow night and all that kind of stuff. Turns out that party I thought was on Saturday night was on Friday night.
Oh no!
So you thought the thing on Saturday was on Friday, and I thought the thing on Friday was on Saturday, and neither of us went to either of them.
That's awesome.
So that was a fun little thing that happened. Other than that, I've just been playing Picross. What? And Succession. I've been like rewatching Succession because I'm really hyped on the last season, and it's such a good show. But what about you, Patrick? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Like I said, we hung out, which honestly ended up being better for me. Like, I don't know if it was better for you, but like, because I got to watch you play my game, which was really helpful. And then I also got to watch you stream it. So, got lots of really great feedback from you and also somebody else who I'll shout out, Dylan Muss. And so that was really great. So I feel good about that.
Yeah.
And that kind of
just so you know, it's a really good game, Patrick.
Oh,
I'm a big fan. I've been singing its praises all day to people at work.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so that was a big win for me, just finishing that this past week and getting it out to some people. And also that y'all both played so much of it so fast and gave.
Did Dylan like it?
Yeah, Dylan did a really amazing job of giving me tons of feedback. Cool. We'll talk about it more another time, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's me. What about you, Emma? What's going on with you?
It's been a good week. Really can't complain. It's been pretty normal. My birthday's on Wednesday, which is when this comes out. So.
Happy
birthday!
Thank you.
Amazing.
Big plans?
Not a ton. It's a Wednesday. I'll probably do stuff, the following weekend. But
yeah, you'll just listen to yourself on this podcast.
That's honestly pretty good.
And be like, man, I had a really good take there. Good take, Emma.
Wonderful. Yeah, that one part, really great.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, everybody wish him a happy birthday. And
thanks, y'all.
Real quickly, we'll do our shout outs. So a lot of talk over on the Discord. We did an episode on the Mario movie, I should say.
A very long episode on the Mario movie.
Yeah. It was a good discussion. Yeah. Like, good movie, good discussion.
Yeah, thank you.
Shout out to DCD who appreciated the spoiler tag. I think some other people did too. And also liked how much we hated on the PlayStation 5 handheld rumor. Or I don't know if he liked it, but he pointed it out. And AV shared a picture of going to the Mario movie. We had some great discussion about the Vita because of that PlayStation handheld rumor from Jay, Carosetta, and Cool Uncle Vince. And we had a lot of great comments over on YouTube too. Real briefly, Hans mentioned that there's a little more critical take on the Mario movie, feeling like it felt like more of a commercial at times than a movie with a thoughtful story. Kind of like it could have been more like the Lego movie, which didn't do that. I'm not talking good.
Still made people want to buy Legos too. So something to
that. Tommy said the Mario movie needed 200% more Steam Gardens. Agreed. Carrie responded to the Pokemon Stadium without being able to bring in your Pokemon can get boring pretty quick. And Sprowlix wants David to talk about the legs of things more. I guess you said the legs of the Mario movie a few times.
Yeah, Mario. We'll talk about it in the news. We'll talk about some of the legs of this fucking Mario movie in the news. It's doing pretty well. Also, one thing that I realized I forgot to mention when we were talking Mario movie was I said that there were some really chatty kids like in the movie. I think probably my favorite bit, and you might remember this, Emma. I think there's a line in it where Bowser says something along the lines of like, "You can't learn without pain," or something like that, because he was like going to hurt somebody or was threatening somebody. And a kid behind us goes to his mom, "Is that true?"
It was hilarious.
And the whole theater laughed. It was hilarious. Yeah.
This is what you learn from Mario movies.
Yeah, I was like, no, he's the bad guy. He's the bad guy. Don't listen to him.
Well, if you hear anything we say today, whether it's in the news or the main topic, and you have a comment, please do share it with us, and maybe we'll shout you out next time. Also, remember to please share our podcast with a friend, and hop on over to YouTube and hit the like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Appreciate that. So, are we ready to talk more about the Mario movie? Because that's
all right.
It's almost the thing always to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna jump into the news, and first up is the Mario movie, breaking records for opening weekend. We talked about last week, but now it has also continued to break some records. Right? I don't know. It's the best second weekend for an animated movie, which is a thing.
Yeah.
Did it get first and second?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And it's the biggest movie of 2023 so far. Those were the two facts that I saw. There might be more. I mean, I know it's made a lot of money.
Still, that's big.
Yeah, second weekends are, for a movie that has a really big opening weekend, the second weekend drop is usually pretty big. Right. Like, for instance, like look at like Spider-Man No Way Home. Right. Like that had the big 3 Spider-Man reveal. So everybody kind of wanted to go out and see it that opening weekend. Week 2 attendance dropped. I think it was like 65, almost 70%. Right. Like, and that's pretty typical. I think like Avengers Endgame also dropped about 65%. The drop domestically for the Mario movie was 40%. Which is pretty fucking unheard of. That never happens. Right. I think like Avatar 2 did that, right? But that's Avatar, and that's a special case, right? So it's like, you want to talk legs, like this thing is going to be around for a while, right? That's pretty unheard of, especially for an animated kids movie. And
really?
then
I feel like it would be the opposite, because kids maybe don't know to go opening weekend, and then they convince their parents to the second weekend, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the trends, right? Like, it's and anyway, it's like there's always going to be a drop, obviously, but like 40% is really good. And then overseas, and let's bear in mind this hasn't opened in Japan yet. Still, I think it will maybe by the time this episode comes out. I think it's coming out the 20 something in Japan, but overseas, I think the drop is like between 20 and 30%, which is like that never happens,
Wow.
So it's definitely going to be around for a while. Yeah, and that's exciting. I feel like it's like I'm rooting for it because it's like in my corner, you know. But it's nice to see it succeed.
Still on the topic of Mario, apparently the Super Mario Bros. Theme song, and we're talking about the original one, has been... You got it. That's it. Nailed it. That's actually the version that's relevant to what I'm about to say. It's been added to the, I guess it's called the National, like the U.S. Library of Congress has like a music, I don't even know what this is called. I guess they add like iconic songs to this library, right? National Recording Registry. And every year they add a handful of songs or whatever. Well,
that's cool.
The very first video game theme song, or video game, presumably, song at all, is Koji Kondo's theme to Super Mario Brothers from 1985. So,
wow.
It's breaking records by having a record put in the Hall of Fame. Joke didn't land.
It joins such historic recordings such as "Come Down, Ma Evening Star" by Lillian Russell from 1912. So there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
A true classic.
In good company.
And yeah, I think the Eurythmics, "Sweet Dreams" made it in this year too, or something like that.
That is a good one.
Great timing too.
That's a song that I pretty much thought was going to be in the trailer, like a slowed down synthy version of it, in like the teaser or something. But yeah, it's funny. I was actually watching. This doesn't explicitly have to do with what we were just talking about, but I watched a great like YouTube documentary by one of the guys who's in the 8-Bit Big Band, talking about how video game music is kind of like the new jazz standards for a whole new crop of like jazz musicians.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it was a really, I mean, looking at all these old jazz standards that are in the National Registry kind of made me think of that. But it's like, I feel like a lot of the jazz guys now came up with video games, right? And a lot of those themes are kind of like the classics that then get spins on them, like Bob on Battlefield and stuff like that from the Mario series. Like Bob on Battlefield is like it's kind of like the new jazz standard of the modern age. It's really interesting to see stuff about that. And yeah,
that's super cool.
Real brief aside, now that you brought that up, I think it's true of jazz and it's true of classical music that like what is propelling like these genres forward into like future generations is video games, right? Like it's interesting.
I mean, there's so many good like classical covers or like a violin cover of a video game song. YouTube's full of that stuff. So it makes sense that people are kind of training on that.
Yep.
I feel like there's a whole episode there, but we'll save it for that episode.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it. We'll get some jazz guys on. My brother would love that episode.
That would be pretty cool.
So this past week, Nintendo Live was announced for September in Seattle. Apparently this event, there's like a whole website for this event. I guess it's taken place in Japan in the past, right? Like I don't know what time of year. Do you know, David, off the top of your head? What?
I don't know what time of year, but I know it was in Kyoto. So it wasn't too far from the Nintendo headquarters.
And I presume that this is in addition to that. I don't know if that means they're going to do it in the United States instead of Japan this year or what. But yeah, so this got announced. They haven't given us a specific date in September, but it's listed as an all ages celebration of Nintendo fun, sort of like a convention.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
Yeah.
But a big like expo.
I'd bet you anything this is them. I bet it's going to run concurrently to PAX West, right? Which is also in Seattle in September. Right. So it feels like this would be probably at the same time. This probably saves them some money from doing it at PAX and having to register all their stuff on the show floor there, right? And yeah, I mean, this just feels to me like what Microsoft does during E3, right? Like have kind of their own space. It'll probably be near their headquarters, which is in Redmond, which is not that far from Seattle, right? So yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of like a fun event, and it kind of makes me want to go to PAX West this year, especially with no E3.
Yeah, and I don't like. I think I've heard some people wondering, is this going to be like a bunch of announcements and stuff like that? Probably not. Maybe, who knows? Nintendo can do whatever they want, but they haven't done that in the past at these. I have not watched the full video, but I know that Kit and Krista, who used to be Nintendo employees, have like released a like what you might expect at Nintendo live in September, because based on their experience of going to the ones in Japan and stuff. And it sounds like it's more like, live band performances and Smash tournaments than it is like them letting you, I don't know, than them doing a direct or something, right? Like,
yeah.
Though they
that
could.
Said, though, I mean,
could.
there are usually directs in September,
right.
So it would be kind of, and they do the directs at the Nintendo store in New York, and those are always super hype. I love seeing those like reaction videos whenever they come up on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, that'd be really cool to show the direct at this event. But either way,
it would make too much sense.
But I mean, it's also an opportunity for them, if they don't do that, to show off some games in a direct, then have like demos playable at this event, right? So something kind of like that would make sense too. But I really want to go just so I could see like Off the Hook or Deep Cut, like
concert.
do like
their
a hologram
concerts are usually pretty cool. You know, they've been so limited, but it'd be a fun thing.
Yeah, I'd love to go to one that's not in Tokyo. You know what I mean? Like, because I haven't been to that either. But this one's a little bit easier to get to.
All right. Well, we'll move on to this week. Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot is releasing on Friday. So
Reboot Camp.
I'm sorry. Yes, there's a long title.
It really is.
I didn't put the full name in the notes. Thank you, David, for
it's like boot. It's like boot camp,
but it's a reboot of of the game. So.
Yeah, it's an adaptation of the show Reboot from Cartoon Network. You guys remember that show?
No.
That fucking show rocked.
All right,
it was the CG. Anyway,
I don't know that full on reviews have come out yet, but I think that like limited impressions have been allowed to come out of like a certain amount of the game I've seen, and it sounds like it's as good as the old games was kind of my impression. Like if you played them, you know what to expect with more polish and new graphics and stuff like that. So, and some new modes. That was my takeaway, which I've never played them. So I'm excited to try them out.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't play them either. So I feel like for that reason, it might be like good, but some of these games, you don't need a huge redo. Just making it nicely run with pretty graphics is pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, especially now that like GBA games are out, it feels like this game almost makes less sense. Like it made more sense if they had released it back then before GBA games were on the Switch, right? Because
they wanted to.
Yeah, they've aged well, like the original games too. But I'm excited. I'm going to pick this up with my other voucher that I have left over from my Tears of the Kingdom pre-order. So I'm excited to play it this weekend.
And then we'll move on to an interesting acquisition news. Sega has acquired Rovio, or is working on a deal to finalize that. You may not know who Rovio is by name, but you probably know what Angry Birds is, and Rovio is the Finnish company that makes Angry Birds, right? Or owns whatever. I don't know how it works, but sounds like it's like somewhere around $700 million.
Wow.
It's
a
lot. At that point, the numbers become meaningless to me.
They really do.
That's like a lot for Sega Sammy, right? Like, I feel like, Sega's not like the powerhouse that it once was, right? I mean, it's got a lot of divisions and is still, a big player, but I don't know, maybe from them like closing a lot of their arcades and stuff, they were able to shore up some of this investment capital in order to make this purchase. But yeah.
What is Angry Birds still like a super popular mobile game like that makes money? I guess they must.
Well, they're not buying this for Angry Birds. Like Angry Birds is a bonus, right? But like they're buying this so that they can have
good
a mobile division, like a good mobile arm. You know what I mean? Like Rovio doesn't just make Angry Birds. They make fuck tons of games, right? And not only that, they work on like lots of apps and stuff like that too. So it's like Sega, I think, wants to shore up developers for a mobile arm that can be their own, and they don't want to have to hire a bunch of new people. They just wanted to grab some of the people that have been doing it for decades now, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not super well known just by name, but they have some really good products that people know of. You get a good team of people.
Yeah. There's also been lots of like rumors and discussions about Sega's like super game that they've been talking about for a while. We've talked about that on the podcast before. You have to think that that's some kind of game as a service sort of thing, right? So a company like Rovio, who does constant updates to their games, would probably be a really good acquisition for something like that. So this could also be leading to whatever that project is meant to be.
All right. Well, we'll find out once we have tons of Sega mobile games and tons of Angry Bird games on console.
It is weird. It's a weird. I read that news and I was like, excuse me. It was like kind of I had to do a double take at that news. It was pretty random.
Indeed. Next up, just wanted to touch on this, even though it's not a Switch related, but Final Fantasy XVI, they did a whole state of play on it for the game. It's coming out in June. Sony, like 25 minute state of play about this game. Wow. Does anybody here care?
I care, but not enough to have watched it immediately.
Okay, so you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. I don't have a PS5 yet. I don't need to know immediately how good this game is because I won't play it immediately unless I somehow get one.
Yeah, I haven't watched it either. I probably should have because I'm not like sold on this game, and maybe this would sell me on it. I mean, I don't know. Like, we'll probably be talking about this in a future episode, but it's like, I like my Final Fantasies turn-based and kind of more classic, right? So a game that I hear everybody describing as DMC5, but with Final Fantasy characters, isn't as exciting to me. And it's like kind of, I'm not really sure what they're trying to do with the tone. You know what I mean? It's got that kind of medieval tone, but it's also very much an M-rated game. And, so it seems like they're really trying something new, but I don't know like how really Final Fantasy it's going to be. But
it is kind of an odd turn, but the Final Fantasy formula is like so contrived in a way now that I get that they have to kind of try things.
Yeah. I never played 15 though either. Did you play 15, Emma?
I didn't, no.
Yeah.
The last Final Fantasy I played was 7. So my comments probably don't matter.
You didn't play 10? You didn't play 9?
No, the last one I played was 7.
Yeah. 9 is my favorite.
Okay.
But I will say I did not watch this whole thing, but I watched some of it. And it is exactly what you're talking about, David, where I'm like, this looks like Bayonetta meets Dark Souls or like Elden Ring to me. Like the combat looks so frenetic and like so fast paced, and there's bars everywhere and like lightning fast people moving around, and I'm like, this is not the Final Fantasy.
Back in my day, we had to walk up the hill both ways.
You had an overworld map, and it was pixelated.
There was a character named Sid in Final Fantasy games back in my day.
There might still be.
Yeah, probably still.
Yeah, there probably will be. Yeah.
I am at least like interested to kind of watch and see how this goes, though, because if the reaction to this is good, then I'm more likely to check it out. I am happy they're doing like a state of play type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of the biggest games of the year, I think. I imagine. I bet. Well, I don't know. I think Final Fantasy VII Remake kind of undersold a little bit. I think they were expecting more sales from that game. So question is, will this beat it? I think it will. But we'll see. I think a lot of people are really appreciative of the fact that it is PS5 only. Not that it's not cross-platform, but that it's not cross-generational, right? Because it's like, finally, we're not being like held back from previous generations of systems, right? So I do like that. But yeah, like you said, I don't have a PS5, so either way, I'm not going to be picking this up right away.
Well, as we move on, we're going to be honing in on Tears of the Kingdom here. this first one is the farthest out, and that is a Splatoon related thing. The next Splatfest was announced, and it is Triforce or the Legend of Zelda themed. It's happening in early May 5th through the 7th. And it's gonna be your Triforce, your 3 choices, right?
You got your power, courage, and wisdom.
Exactly.
There you go. So, and they even they kind of personify it in the image with Ganon, Zelda, and Link, right?
Classic. I mean, they have been that exact choice in every single game, so it's basically like color coded at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we think? If you're gonna play Splatoon that weekend, what would you want to be? What team would you want?
I'm a sucker for wisdom, but I also haven't been playing Splatoon as much, so I will defer to the group.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm leaning towards probably my boy Link. I think I'm leaning towards courage. I don't know. Yeah. I haven't really thought about it that much.
More than any other, this one does not feel like, when it's like white chocolate versus dark chocolate, I got an opinion.
Yeah.
But when it's 3 wonderful characters from a series I love and all, I'm kind of like, whatever.
Also, the whole point is that they kind of balance each other out. So,
well, that's like an ideal Splatfest right there, right? Like they should all be equal, right? It should be rock, paper, scissors, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that's good. I'm interested to see. We'll put up a poll like we always do in the Splatoon channel and see what people want to pick. But either way, also we called it in the Splatoon channel in our Discord, by the way.
People have been thinking that for a while.
Yeah, I bet they'll do a wisdom, power, and courage Splatfest, and they totally did.
For a 3-group thing, you've got a release of Zelda. It was way too easy not to do.
Yeah. Now we just need a Tears of the Kingdom Tetris 99 theme, and we'll be all set.
Let's hope.
Also, they announced that during the Tricolor Turf War matches, that there's going to be a unique version of Scorch Gorge, which is kind of reshaped like the Triforce.
Great stuff.
But don't be fooled that means this is like not asymmetric anymore, because I don't think Splatoon's net code can handle something that isn't 4 or 8 players.
Yeah.
So it's still the same. It's still like one area is bigger or something. I've heard people break it down. I haven't paid super close attention, where the 4 team will spawn and then 2 from the other 2 teams, which is a bit of a bummer, because I actually think this felt like, when I first saw this, it's like, oh, are they going to make it finally what would be perhaps the most fun way to play with 3 teams, where everybody comes in and has a triangle shaped stage? But no.
Yeah. 3, 3, and 3 would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Again, I think they have some limitation there. I don't know. That's what it really feels that way, though. Anyway, I think that does it for the Splatoon bit. But continuing on our Tears of the Kingdom Zelda theme, there's been some leaks. We talked about one a while back where there was an art book that leaked. Apparently, Nintendo has been seeking legal action seeking that Discord reveals the leaker, because apparently they must have done it originally on Discord or partly on Discord. And so Nintendo's filed for subpoenas or whatever they need to do to get.
Nintendo saw the federal government being able to
it's like Discord
get into Discord.
Has had some other leaks recently.
Yeah, it's been a big week for boomers learning what Discord is this week. Yeah.
Oh geez, yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, there's some
state secrets
classified...
and the Tears of the Kingdom art book.
Wholesome nerds also.
So I don't know. That happened almost a week ago. I couldn't find any new details. Probably nothing is public yet about whether or not they were able to get that information or not.
They went after. They also went after a GameStop employee for posting a leak of the Zelda OLED.
Really?
From the point of sale system in a GameStop. And they were. They reached out to that GameStop, and GameStop fired that employee. So Nintendo will come after you, man. Also, fuck GameStop. GameStop's on my shit list right now because they canceled my Loftwing amiibo. And I went by in person to pick it up today, and they're like, it's been canceled. And I'm like, fuck you, GameStop.
When you said that, I looked on their website after that, and they said they had some copies at one place in Austin, but when you put it in the cart, it was like, this doesn't work.
Yeah. But anyway, man, it's all good.
But that's not where the Tears of the Kingdom leaks stopped, right? Like, it wasn't just that art book. Apparently, a whole TV ad has leaked. If you want to go out there and find it, I'm sure you can. I have not watched it. I don't want to watch it yet.
I have avoided it for now. I feel like we have so much information out there that I'm not lacking. You know,
I watched it. It's fine. Okay. It doesn't really give anything away.
Yeah. I understand it shows some new things, but not a lot. Is that correct, David? At least of what they showed.
Yeah, there's like a couple new shots, but it wasn't a lot. It was a lot of like cute, like it was like Nintendo Switch commercials where it's like showing people playing it, showing their reactions. There's like a bit where like Link like lights up an area with a bow, and like this guy's daughter that's like watching him play like goes, and it's like, you know, it's stuff like that. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's what they're getting for like the general audience kind of trailer.
Yes,
but I mean, any small little shot of something new, the internet's gonna dissect it because that's what they do with everything Zelda. Most of the time, it's just similar scenes of him falling out of the sky.
Right. Well, and then obviously the big news that I don't think we're going to talk a lot about in the news segment, unless there's anything you want to real quickly hit, is that the final pre-launch trailer for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom happened. A 3-minute-ish long trailer. We're going to dive into it in great detail. Is there anything newsworthy that you think we need to hit before we move on?
Pretty much just how many people commented on it. Like, it just was a good trailer.
Yeah. And it's still, I think, even up until today, it's still trending on YouTube. Like, this thing popped the fuck off. I think a lot of people are saying it's probably one of the best video game trailers ever made. And I agree. I've watched it many times.
Super hype.
Can't wait to talk about it. Yeah, the hype cycle has officially begun. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we'll break that down and get real hyped for the game after this short break. We are back. This week, we are talking about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It's not too far away, less than a month now. We talked about it a few months, not even that long ago, when we got some info. But now we got a new trailer, probably the biggest, chunkiest trailer to date. And so this
definitely.
And like we just talked about at the end of the news, this trailer really blew up. A lot of people reacted to it.
It was so good. Like, even people that I feel like don't necessarily pay attention to Zelda were like, hey, I saw the new Zelda trailer.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking before we came back and officially restarted the podcast about something, which I would like to get y'all's thoughts on, because I felt like I watched this trailer and didn't feel like the game was ruined or like too much was shown, because it felt like a lot was shown, but there was very little to no context for all of it.
Yep.
And so I thought that was actually really cool. And while maybe, certain things you could be like, oh, that would have been a cool moment in the game to discover some of the bigger moments. It didn't feel like
we'll get into this, but like I really think a lot of what they've shown is going to happen in the first hour. And they did this with Breath of the Wild too, where everyone was like, oh, I can't believe they showed so much, and it was all the Great Plateau. So I really think, whatever we've seen, sure, it's really cool, but it's going to be like the first big cool thing, and there's more stuff to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like there's some late game stuff in here. But again, it's like without the context, there's no way to really know like what any of that shit is, right?
Yeah.
But like, I think a fun part of stuff like this, especially when stuff is shown that's really intriguing without context, it kind of puts the onus on the players to like speculate and figure out like how those things connect. And if you don't get it right, then you're like, oh, hell yeah, I'm surprised. And if you do get it right, you're like, I fucking figured it out. And it like feels really good, Yeah, it's like a little puzzle, right? And so it's like there's definitely some stuff in here that I think, I'm sure so many others have watched a lot of like trailer discussions and breakdowns on this already, and like and there's some things people have said that I'm like, dude, I kind of hope that's what it is, right? And like, and if it's not, great, and if it is, then that's cool too, you know.
So much I feel like Zelda as a fandom is very good at speculating.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of time between games, and the whole timeline that was a fan-made theory is just people speculating.
Yeah,
it like goes along with the territory.
Totally. But yeah, overall, this trailer kind of blew my socks off. I thought it was really excellent. Both of the first times that I watched it, I like teared up and like got emotional, like particularly like towards the end of the trailer when like this iconic Zelda theme comes in with the horns and everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's like this really like, and it's just the way it's orchestrated, like feels so good. And I felt like we've been so bereft of like the original Zelda theme in so many of these, in the Breath of the Wild era of Zelda, that it's like when it comes back, it's like really impactful and emotional and very nostalgic, you know? And so, I thought that was handled really well. I love the saxophone.
Ooh, yes.
Are you
they
kidding
have some
me?
Good instruments in this one.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting instrumentation that they're doing in this, but it's like
Breath of the Wild was so piano.
Yeah, and simple,
quiet,
right?
Beautiful music. But I really feel like they're going hard now of just like, you know what? Let's throw a random instrument at you.
Well, you know, and I think it's kind of like purposeful, and I think it's thematic, and I think it's probably tied to the story a little bit. You know, I don't want to get too into speculation right now, but while we're on the saxophone, it's like I feel like there was a lot of like like traditional like Japanese instrumentation in this trailer, but a lot in the Breath of the Wild trailer, particularly in the 2017 trailer, which I feel like this was kind of trying to mimic the beats of, right? Like this was very similar in beats to that just epic final trailer from Breath of the Wild. But that used a lot of like Japanese instrumentation and stuff like that. And I feel like that was almost meant to like represent the Sheikah, right? And then all the woodwinds and like the sax and stuff, I feel like that might be like symbolically tied to like the Zonai, right? Which seems to be like what a lot of what this game is about. And
another
so it's like
thing that I can't figure out, I don't know enough about the music of it to say what it is, but the weird haunted vocals that are really high pitched.
Yeah.
That's like the mystical, magical, backwards stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely the Zonai.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we saw a lot of Zonai in this trailer without knowing exactly what they are yet, but they're clearly going to be a really big part of the story, and I'm so excited to see.
I mean,
what
that's
that,
one
like,
of the things I want to talk
bring
about.
to it. Yeah.
Sticking with the trailer again, like I just think it felt like they showed a ton of stuff, but it's bam, 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 and like that was so cool. And also for me, this is the kind of trailer I want, like that it didn't over explain, but it gave a real sense of like, lots of stuff's gonna happen, right?
Yes.
This is the trailer that finally made it not feel like $70 DLC. You know? And I'm not trying to fucking shit on it, and I know people have been defending it for a while, but it's like this was like, no, this is a new game. You know, there's a lot of new shit here. You know, and not only that, it's like we're going places with the story that we didn't even touch with the first game, right?
Absolutely.
And so it was like, it really, to me, like, you know, it's not like that I haven't been hyped for Zelda up to this point. Like, I've been hyped. I've been wanting to play this game for 5 years now, right? But it's like, I had this little guy in the back of my head that's like, well, what even is this? You're going across the same Hyrule. Like, what's the difference?
I have an idea to propose. I think Nintendo has purposefully been trying to hold back the hype because of their release worries and everything else. I think they wanted to keep us interested, but now they're just like, you know what? It's a month away. Here you go.
Yeah, we got you. Yeah. But
I think
either way, I'm officially on board now, is all I'm saying. I'm like counting down the days. Yeah.
I think the strategy has been interesting with the marketing, because I'm sure some of it is what you're saying, Emma, that, you know, the game has taken a long time. They probably didn't end. Obviously, COVID happened, and also
this fandom speculates a ton. They wanted to keep a lot of that behind closed doors for a while,
and they still are. That's why I think this trailer doesn't explain itself, right? It just is shots. There's no like voiceover that's like explore a new Hyrule where blank and blank has, you know what I mean? Like the only thing they've told us is that there are now Sky Islands, and the website has told us
all they need. You can read into it so much.
And the website has been updated, which we can talk about, but and that says that there's also caves and openings, right? But they don't tell us why or what it's going to be like. And the trailer shows weird platforming and weird, like, you know what I mean? Like like ships in the air and things where I'm like, that's not that, like, that's showing that there's a breadth of things, not specifically what they are. And I think that's what I want out of a trailer.
Yes.
It's got a Death Star.
It does.
That big, like, circular thing that he dives through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that. I was like, what? That got me. I love big orbs in the sky, but yeah.
It reminds me of the Skyward Sword, like, cannons you could go through.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like big rocks, but go through the middle, you get a speed boost.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this before, but I guarantee you there are factions over at Nintendo, both America and Japan, that are like, no, this game is the most anticipated game. The less we show, the better. And some people that are like, no, we need to show stuff. You know what I mean? And if this is the compromise, then I think the people who are like, let's keep it under wraps kind of won, or more or less. Like,
it really is structurally similar to that 2017 trailer, right? The difference being, before that, we had long sit downs with like Miyamoto and even I think Iwata, like back then, like showing off like what this game is going to play like, what it's going to be like, you know. And we got that one kind of gameplay mechanic showcase, right? But nowhere near the kind of stuff. Yeah, it was real specific. It was clearly like one little area, you know, like, but we saw so much more Breath of the Wild before that came out because they had to sell us on this idea of a whole new type of Zelda game, right? We don't need to be sold on that anymore.
They're heavily leaning on the fact that everyone knows Breath of the Wild. And like some of the stuff we can dig into is, they're not saying it outright, but they're giving you just enough, just little clips of things that hint at so much.
Mm-hmm.
Before maybe we move on to that, maybe we could just talk about what we could or could not expect. So they said this is the final pre-launch trailer. So that means there will probably be a launch trailer, which maybe is what some of that footage in that TV ad showed, you know? And so I don't know if we can expect that launch trailer to be the thing I'm talking about, where they're like, come back to a Hyrule where blank and blank has happened, or not. I guess they could do tweets with they've already been doing it, right, with art and stuff.
They've been good at tweeting out art for a while now, which is good, because whenever they have like a release drop, they also like have a Twitter posting about it. That's not just a link. It's like, oh, I actually want to go look at that.
But they could give us little details through that, or they could do another gameplay presentation. But I'm kind of thinking they aren't going to do a ton of that stuff. I mean, maybe the tweets will just be more like key art, like we've been seeing or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
with like big, wide-chested fucking Ganondorf that everybody wants to fuck.
Yes,
they know what they're doing.
They kind of do. What do y'all think? Do you think there will be more detailed information in the next 3 weeks, or do you think that they're like, the reaction to this trailer was enough?
I think this reaction was enough. And in general, they've kind of laid the groundwork to maybe release a little bit, maybe release like another little clip or, you know, some more art. But we're close enough that people are already pre-ordering at record rates. Like, I think that is going to be not the people pre-ordering, that's going to be their trailer for the game's out. Y'all go get it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if you had asked me right before this trailer came out, I would have said that we'd get one more Aonuma sitting and playing some of the game and talking about mechanics before this thing comes out. But now that this thing came out and it was received so well, I don't think they need it. And I don't think that they will. I think at this point, like, people can just watch this for the next month, you know, and like just like pour over it and try to figure it out. And I think that's probably better. You know, I don't need like what are the Zonai like video. Like, I'll learn that in the game. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I don't know. I just find that this is probably what we're going to get.
Right. Yeah. Well, and this is more interesting because it's not fact necessarily, right? It's best guesses. Some of it's fact, Emma says. Yeah.
That's the thing. I really feel like they do a very good job at dipping their toes into stuff. And like the hardcore people can dig through it for a month. And the people that just want to see a bunch of cool random shots to get an idea of the depth of the game, get that too.
Well, part of the reason we asked you here, Emma, is because you can help us dig through this trailer and maybe share some details. So if you're not interested in that, I guess maybe this part, maybe you can skip ahead a little bit.
Warning, speculation based on literally the trailers.
I don't. But this isn't real spoilers. That's what I'm trying to say. Like it's best guesses or whatever.
It's fan speculation if you want to avoid that. But it's also like a lot of this speculation isn't super new. If you've watched any of the trailers, it's probably already out there.
So, well, let's start with the tiers and David's question that he's posing to us right now, which is back when they released the name of this game, because it was known as the sequel to the Breath of the Wild for a long time, they hinted that they didn't want to share the name because it would spoil something. And then when the name came out, we were all like, what? And then we've even seen...
Is this because the queen died? That's what we were all saying.
Actually.
And then we see this trailer, which shows some literal tears, like on Zelda's face.
Yeah, she's got it tattooed under her eye, like she killed a gang member. Yeah.
As well as,
they're also little jewel things.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah,
the teardrop looking thing.
They look like magatama. Like it's a common like shape in Japanese stuff of just like that kind of crescent tear shaped jewel.
Well, it's also a lot of characters have them. It's not just Zelda that has one. Sidon seems to have one. Ganondorf has one.
That actually was kind of new to me. They released a picture where his forehead wasn't shining. And everyone thought like, oh, maybe under that shining thing is one of them. And the most recent like forward facing thing they put out on Twitter shows it without it shining, and it's the same shape.
Yep. And I think there's 7 of them, which we saw in like one of the cave paintings of the walls. Which
that gets into like all the Zonai stuff. That was one of the first things that we actually saw was them exploring that underground area.
Right.
And they see a bunch of like ancient art, and you see that painting up on the wall basically. And then they run into dead, not dead Ganon. Yeah, the tears, I'm kind of interested because they haven't said anything about what their function is or what the purpose is or why he needs to find them.
I've got some speculation on that. If you guys would humor me.
Sure. Of course.
So my theory on why Bill Turner was like, we don't want to say the title yet because it's a spoiler. Here's what I think. And I think part of it is you have to go to the title for the previous game, Breath of the Wild, right? What was the breath? I don't know, like wind. But like, I mean, you're riding your paraglider around and all that kind of shit. Like that kind of makes sense, right? But of the Wild was very much talking about what that gameplay was like. In that game, for most of it, it's just you out in the wild in nature, running around by yourself, right? It's this big wild area is what they called it, right? And so now we've got a game called Tears of the Kingdom. Obviously, we kind of know literally what the tiers are. It seems like there are going to be like kind of collectible tiers or tiers, you collect and give to your compatriots. And
they've used the word tiers as a collectible for many games now.
For many Zelda games. Yeah. Skyward Sword being one of them. But it's like, but then it's like of the kingdom. Like what does that really mean? And I think it's twofold, right? I think, first of all, something that we didn't really know was going to be in this game, be a thing in this game until this trailer. It seems like it's a lot more filled out, right? Like I think this is after a time jump. I think there's some time between Breath of the Wild and this. It seems like Hyrule is rebuilding. But moreover than that, we've got sequences where Link is fighting alongside like villagers and shit, trying to protect like their land. You've got him like pulling people in wagons. You've got like the champions fighting alongside him. I feel like the kingdom itself is going to be a lot more of a character in this than it was in the first one. The first one was kind of like, there are some ruins, there are some disparate villages here and there, but the majority of the time it's you out there in the wild, right? Yeah. This feels like it's putting a way bigger emphasis on the kingdom and the people within it, right?
I like that.
Yeah, and so I think that's kind of where some of that title is coming from, and that might be why it was thought to be a spoiler for a while. Cool. Another thing that I kind of think the way that it might tie into the story is, we've seen now multiple times that like shot of Link reaching his arm out and Zelda falling into that abyss, is a little bit different this time. We see her kind of like glow a little bit. And so it's like, so at first people were like, oh, is she fucking dead? Clearly she's not, because she's like, Link, come find me and all this kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
So what I think is going to happen in this game, in like the beginning of the game, is that like it's going to be Link and Zelda on their little adventure, like exploring Zonai ruins or something like that. They're like, oh, we found a thing. What is it? Oh, we found this thing. Fuck, it's blowing up. She falls down the hole, right? Yep. Link thinks she's dead.
Oh, for sure.
I think he just thinks she's gone, right? But some kind of power of the Zonai like saves her, but he leaves and is like, Zelda's dead, right? So he has to like explain to all of Hyrule that like she's gone, and then the whole kingdom is like in mourning, right? But she's not dead. She's just elsewhere. I think maybe back in time or in a different
we can get to that.
Era, right? But it's like, but I feel like after that initial bit, there's going to be a time jump forward, right? And that's when Link has become all disheveled and shit. And like, that's kind of like how I'm viewing it a little bit. And he's, you know, obviously his hand is corrupted and shit like that.
I agree with you up until that point.
Okay, please tell me what you think.
I really think it'll go very much like that. They'll set off whatever they shouldn't have set off underground. Zelda will fall into whatever chasm. There's been some discrepancy in trailers, actually, of the hand that reaches out to grab her. So either there's two scenes that are like mirrored within the game, or they changed it at some point, because you see both his arm as corrupted and not as corrupted in different scenes.
Interesting.
So I really think the corruption is probably going to happen right around then, but they were playing with, did it happen or not right there?
Right. Trying to give us like the old alley-oop.
Yeah. And I think whatever they set off immediately kind of destroys your sword, destroys his arm, whatever. Maybe it awakens some of that Zonai power that might be able to save Zelda. Whatever happens to his arm also gives him Zonai power. And then whatever happens with, like, we've seen multiple times that scene of Hyrule Castle, like, rising into the sky. And, like, you see malice pouring out of the ground. So I think that's whatever initial bomb they set off. And then that's probably going to launch you up onto a sky platform, unconscious, knocked out. You wake up thinking Zelda's dead, and now you're in the sky. You have to go through tutorial.
Right.
Because you have to get to the sky somehow for the tutorial, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, probably. You think like the Great Plateau is going to be a sky island?
I think so. I think the video we got of like gameplay, I think that was the initial island, and that's all they've shown us.
Right. That makes sense.
Because they did that with Breath of the Wild, where it's like, oh, why are they showing us all these cool places? But then you realize it was mostly the Great Plateau that they showed off, with all like the early gameplay and stuff. So I really think it'll be like a biggish but not too big starting island. You learn your powers just like you did before, and then finally they let you explore everything else.
Yeah. Either way, I think it's going to be really sad at the beginning of the game. And there's going to be a lot of like mourning, right? Like
I think this is going to be dark. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, you have any thoughts on that, Patrick?
No, y'all have sold me. I think I think just to go back to that question of why did they think it was a spoiler, I think that's like, I like your explanation, David, and I think something like that makes sense, where they thought, like, if we say this, it's like when you're making a puzzle and you make it too hard or something, and then you give it to people and you're like, they're going to get it in 5 minutes. And then an hour later, they haven't even...
They're like, I need a hint.
Yeah, and I just think that might have happened with this, where they're like, we can't say the name because it'll give it all away. And then we're like, what does that mean? But I think your idea is a really good one, that like this is more of a kingdom, because we see people who need to be protected.
We see citizens of the kingdom.
And,
exactly. Yeah,
I mean, so that ties into another thing of the topics is you see more people fighting in general. Like, it's not just Link alone. It seems like he has kind of teams with him, or maybe there's some villagers involved. But we also see Sidon and like the other champion offspring come join in fighting, which is a pretty cool mechanic.
Yeah.
It looks like gameplay. Like, it could, who knows? Because this whole game,
I think so,
is like all in the same art style and whatever. But that scene in particular where Sidon's swinging his trident or whatever around does feel like either a computer controlled friend or something you get to kind of command. Who knows?
It's probably computer controlled.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be nice if there was co-op, but it's probably just like, maybe you can command people around you or something.
Yeah, I'm not in the there's going to be multiplayer camp. I am kind of a bit in the maybe playable Zelda camp, though, because clearly Zelda's on her own somewhere. And it's not like in Breath of the Wild, we constantly be like cutting to Hyrule Castle to like see her like keeping Ganon at bay. You know what I mean? It's like, but in a lot of this trailer, like she's chilling. Like we've got a lot of cutscenes with Zelda in this, and she's got the fucking Master Sword during some of it too, right? And so that's why I think it's in the, that's why I think it's in the past, right? It's like an old version of the Master Sword.
Yes,
because it's not corrupted.
Before you get into that, real quickly, I want to say like it makes me think maybe something like Paper Mario, where you play as Peach in short segments and do a little puzzle solving or something to like communicate with Mario in that game,
or like
right?
The Spider-Man games when you play as Mary Jane for a little bit. You do that, right?
I'm aware of it. I haven't played it, but something like that. I
think that would be cool.
I'm not saying it's happening.
No. They're so stuck on Link. I love Zelda. I would love to play as Zelda.
Gotta get a game.
I really want to play as Zelda. Yeah. She's like a powerful, magical, like wizard. Like, you know, it's like I want to fucking play as Zelda so bad in a game.
Maybe
Absolutely.
Peach and Zelda can have a game together.
Okay, that's sexist.
No, I just feel like they both
need I don't know.
They both need a game, and like
maybe in the MCU we'll get a Peach and Zelda movie.
Emma, what were you going to say when I cut you off? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. It gets into other topics of like time travel and everything else if we want to go there.
I think time travel just feels like it's happening for multiple reasons. That backwards sound, if nothing else, that every time they play,
we're seeing like time travel is literally a mechanic. Like,
yeah. The reversal thing.
Yeah.
And so the big thing with all of like this timeline for Breath of the Wild is that you have the current day when Link woke up. You have 100 years ago, which you're getting through memories and story. But then you also have 10,000 years ago. And I think we're going back there.
Yeah.
Because there's this whole idea of like, there's this legend of these heroes that sealed away Ganon. And 100 years ago, he came back. And we almost won, but didn't. But this is like going back to that original time point, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think the like Zonai are an ancient race.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And that,
we've mentioned Zonai a lot.
Yeah,
Can I briefly, because a lot of people have no idea all the Zonai stuff, like what we know from Breath of the Wild.
What is Zonai?
So the Zonai are not directly talked about in like Breath of the Wild much at all. But if you go to the Farron area, like the Lightning Rainforest area, there's a bunch of old ruins. All the labyrinths are ruins related to them. The barbarian clothing set says it came from an ancient tribe from the Farron region. Mm-hmm. So people put together a while ago that there's like this ancient tribe that made all these ruins. And then one of the Breath of the Wild art books specifically said, yeah, they're the Zonai. And if you go here, you see it actually in like the names of the places.
Mm-hmm.
So all we really knew is that it's ancient tribe. However, people have then started speculating based on everything they can find of like what that actually means. But if they're an ancient barbaric race, it's also interesting that all of the trailers are showing us this high-tech constructs and society and everything else. So there's a lot of question there still of what exactly they are. Also, in the most recent like gameplay trailer, the constructs dropped an item called like a Zonai charge. So they directly confirmed that that's what this is.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, fuck, everybody was right.
Yeah. So that's what I mean of like, they don't directly say anything about the story, but they're giving direct hints to the people they know will take them.
Right.
With that, you know, there's all kinds of speculation of like, how does that fit into the Breath of the Wild story? Because where were they 10,000 years ago? And how do they fit into this? They've been missing for a long time and they weren't there 100 years ago. But they probably were 10,000 years ago. But with that, since we kind of referenced, like, there's this Zonai group, I really think that, you know, all the skills you're picking up, before you had the Sheikah slate. So it was this idea of old Sheikah technology. That seems to be greatly missing. There's a little bit of Sheikah stuff that's been shown, but not a lot. So I think, you know, all the abilities you're getting are whatever Zonai powers they give you at the very beginning.
Yep. Yeah. Kind of infused into your hand or whatever.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. I think there's also potentially going to be some sort of element of transformation in this game. There has been a lot of speculation about who the character with kind of like the long ears and the kind of darker skin and the kind of like mousy face is. You know, if you look at Zelda when, you know, she's with whoever these people are, we're assuming the Zonai maybe in the past, you know, she's got like the 2 tears like under her eyes here that almost kind of seem tattooed on. She's got the yellow tear as well that's like kind of like attached to her.
Very specific egg-like disco ball earrings that are mirrored in a lot of the architecture you see.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think like that character might be Zelda after some sort of transformation.
I think like they're wearing the same dress also.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think
they show it from like here up for a reason.
Yes. And you know, we've seen Ganondorf, obviously. But we've also seen somebody who looks a lot like Demise from Skyward Sword, right? From behind with kind of the red tendrils for hair, right? We've seen another mystery character that we're not really sure who it is. Like that kind of makes me think that that's maybe a Link transformation. But it's like all together, we've got like clearly somebody whose arm is being corrupted, very Princess Mononoke style. And, you know, maybe over the course of the game, you're transformed into this kind of like beast or ancient Zonai creature or something like that. Or, you know, maybe it's something that you can call at will with the tier, like a magical anime transformation girl montage.
I mean,
you know?
We've already had Link be a wolf, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This totally makes sense.
And everything in Majora's Mask. Like, they're not afraid to do that.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I really hadn't thought about that. The Zelda kind of parallel. If it's not Zelda, it's definitely like the Zelda of the time. Because we know that there's this cycle that goes back and forth. And there's got to be a Zelda and a Link of the time. Right. They're in all the murals. So who are those guys?
Yeah, totally.
So
I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be like a Sailor Moon kind of thing. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I think it's like you can like touch the tier and transform into like a stronger version of yourself. Like, I think that would be fucking lit.
Let's hope there's magical girl transformations if
That's
that
what
does
I'm
happen.
Saying. Yeah.
I think all the things we're talking about point to something you put in the notes, Emma, and that's like this game seems to have a more focused storyline.
Yes.
Right? That this game, the other game was all about exploration and taking your time. And I imagine there will be quite a bit of that too. But that there will be a stronger element of events happening and sequences and things like that.
I think that's exactly kind of what David was saying with the whole wild versus kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
They did the open world. We've seen it. What else is there? I think this is their way to kind of bump that up a notch.
Yeah. And it is the same Hyrule, right? So it's like, it's not, I mean, like obviously stuff has changed. A lot's being rebuilt, but it's like the same map, you know, and it's like, if you want to still explore, like you can, you know, that's kind of part of why I haven't gone back to Breath of the Wild is I know I'll be exploring this same map, you know? And so it's like, okay, well now it'll like, this is a good way for it to be fresh while treading the same like territory. Right.
Totally.
And that's another question you had on here, which is how much do we think is the same and different? And I think they showed us, you know, in that gameplay trailer, there were people that did one-to-one things where it like looks all the same. But I think they've also said now with this website update that, you know, there's chasms in places as well as the Skylands and more underground in their caves to explore. So I think there's going to be more changes than maybe people think.
For sure. I want to touch on the underground areas real quick because the recent trailers haven't really shown them a lot. But if you go back to those original trailers, they were the whole exploration at first is them dungeon diving into like some place. And there's actually quite a bit of scenes we've gotten in previous trailers and shots that are just caves. You see a lot of caves. And so I think maybe that's a potential for dungeons, honestly, is cool underground areas or just more ways to kind of like get more story from a Hyrule we already know.
Yeah, I think you could definitely have caves underground, but it's, you know, we've got at the beginning like something coming up out of the earth in this trailer that doesn't look like Hyrule Castle. I think that could be a dungeon. But either way, it definitely, you're right. It seems like a more guided experience this go round, which is a really good evolution of the formula, I think. I would love if there was, like, I liked being able to hit anything in any order in the original game, but I think I would like some more progressive dungeons in this, you know, like some dungeons you have to hit in order and others you can do out of order, right? Like, because I miss that from Zelda. Like I get the hook shot in this temple and then I need to use it to beat that one and all subsequent temples, you know?
Yeah.
So I think something like that would be great.
I think that's a good way to do it, where Hyrule will probably be super open on the surface, but then some of those underground or sky areas might be locked behind other things.
Absolutely. What about shrines? We haven't seen a shrine. Do you think shrines are in this? I would have said yes before this trailer, but after the trailer, I'm not so sure.
I don't think so. I mean, if so, I think they're going to be less formulaic. Like, maybe you're going to get a shrine-like experience on a sky island in the way that the puzzles would be laid out, but I don't think you're going to go find 120 shrines.
I think that's actually a great call. I think the shrines in this are the sky islands.
Yep, I think they're up there.
Like, we saw that moment where he's on some sort of anti-grav platforming thing. Like, I think that's like one of the probably many, right? Like, different little
many ways to get up
gimmicky
there.
or just like gimmicky, like to get to this item or whatever, you know what I mean? Maybe it's a collectible thing, like we're in the shrines, right? Or whatever.
Yeah. I kind of hope they're back. I think like, I mean, I want standard dungeons again, but it's like, I know this is probably going to be a more guided thing, but I don't want to have to schlep up to the fucking sky every time I want to like discover something new in this game. You know what I mean? Like they have to keep some of that exploration still in there, right? And so what does that mean? Are they going to put another 900 Korok seeds in different places this go round? You know what I mean? Like there has to be some sort of way to reward, because that was the thing that Breath of the Wild did so well, was like you would go anywhere just because you felt like it, and there would always be something there to reward you.
Scan for a shrine, and then go do the shrine, and hit pause so that next time you fired up your Switch, you could do the shrine, and then climb the high spot, right? Like,
I think some of that is going to be, like we said, sky islands and the underground areas. So maybe you're like, why would I climb this mountain again? But if on top of that mountain is a new puzzle way to get onto an island or a hole, you know, to get somewhere else.
Yeah, like maybe a lot of the falling rocks have like cracked open the earth and like revealed these caverns or whatever.
I bet so. And like all the stuff that rose into the sky, there's got to be a chasm where that was. And what did that reveal? I think there's just going to be a lot where it's like, it's new enough terrain that you're like, oh, I got to climb that just to see what changed.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a big gimmick. I also, on the point of shrines, is save points. I think in replace of like shrines as your teleports, we've seen a lot of like green spirals. There's one in the very middle of Hateno and like a couple other spots where you'd be like, that's a warp point. So I think there's going to be some kind of magical connection to certain places that act as a shrine focus of like, oh, I got to get there so I can like warp here.
To just real briefly, this is just copy, so who knows if it matters. But on the website, they say, you know, the familiar locations have been dramatically transformed with new towns, dank caves, and mysterious gaping chasms. And I think separating caves and chasms is one of the things that makes me think one of those is dungeons and one of those is exploration or shrines or something like that. You know what I mean? But that could just be a copywriter trying to make it sound like there's a lot, you know, and breaking those things up.
I'm excited to see like what the gimmicks are, because there's so much story they haven't really revealed. I feel like that's the kind of thing that we don't know. And once we start playing, I hope there's a good reason for like, I need to go explore all these caverns.
Yeah. Man, I have like total fucking faith in this game. Like I'm like seriously, I'm like, they're gonna fucking kill it. Like
it's gonna be so good.
You know, and I was like, you know, before this trailer, I was like, oh, I bet the Metacritic's gonna be like an 87. It's gonna be like, it's too similar to the first game. Like, I think they have a lot under their sleeve that they haven't shown yet, and it's stuff that they've been hinting to that it'll happen in the game. Will be like, oh, that's what they're doing here.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah.
So I think one thing we kind of touched on that I think we're not going to know exactly how it's going to work or why it's going to work, but time travel. Because a lot of the trailers have shown this more disheveled, pasty looking Link in his very like ancient sandals.
What's your take on that?
Either you as Link get to go back and forth in time and maybe that's story dependent, or I don't know. I honestly have no idea what to do with time travel. All we know is that I really think Zelda is somehow transported back in time. And there's going to be a huge focus of maybe Link, distraught that she's dead, somehow figures that out.
She better be fucking back in time, because like there are fans already because she's like, Link, you have to find me. And there are fans who, like, based on where she is and the stuff in the background, triangulated exactly where she is on the map. You know what I mean? They're like, she's there, Link, go get her.
Yeah. I bet she's back in time.
Yeah.
So with that, like the Zonai, that's kind of a question I've had is, have they been hiding this whole time? Or are they back in time? Because I don't know how they'd be there otherwise. And
maybe that big, because there's that shot of Zelda in front of the big kind of like spinning circle mechanical things. Maybe that's their time machine.
So spinning circle projection things have also been used to shuttle people into the Twilight Realms and Sacred Realms.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So there's also a chance for just multiple dimensions here.
Yeah, totally.
Which is something I want to get into at some point, maybe now, which is connections to other games. Nintendo has been very careful with Breath of the Wild to be like, hey, don't worry about the timeline. It's so far in the future, it doesn't matter. But they put a lot of Easter eggs for locations and names of people. And now with all of this going on, they've got hints to like Sky Islands in Skyward Sword. And the Zonai magic looks exactly like Twilight Realm stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So how much do y'all think they're going to like pull on story from other games? Or are they going to try to leave it vague and just like, maybe they have the same influences?
I don't know that they'll get explicit with any of it, right? But it definitely seems to be a lot more on the nose than just like, oh, this is the stable from Ocarina of Time, but it ruins now. You know, like that's stuff that you would like go on the subreddit and be like, oh, holy shit, that's brilliant. They made this, that, but it wasn't like really spelled out. Like, I think it'll be a little bit more obvious this go round, right? Like, I think that there's a reason that Skyward Sword was recently remastered leading up to this game while they're waiting. You know, they thought this game was going to come out like 2 or 3 years ago, right? And they're like, all right, we need more time. Let's release Skyward Sword because we're putting Skyward Sword shit in this.
I mean, I speculated that all of these games would be out by now, but I really feel like if this ties into Twilight Princess, this would be perfect for re-releasing Twilight Princess.
Yeah. For sure.
Briefly on that, the whole like Ganon resurrection, they focused on so much. And that whole pose of like this hand that's kind of sealing him in place is really reminiscent of stuff from Twilight Princess, where that's where he was wounded when he was executed. That's where like the whole neck crack thing is actually really reminiscent of how he died in reverse order. And the whole reverse music has made people think that like, ooh, they could be hinting that this is actually like the same Ganon we've always known.
Yeah.
Because canonically, Ganon has never actually died.
Do you think it's like Twilight Princess Ganondorf?
I think it's Twilight Princess Ganondorf.
Wow, that'd be so fucking cool. Do
you
think Midna's going to be in this game? I kind of hope so.
Probably not.
I like Midna.
I mean, actually, like her mask is very reminiscent of a lot of the architecture they're using.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But yeah, Ganondorf never died. The Ocarina of Time Ganondorf split into the two timelines, and he died in both timelines, so to speak. But we've also seen him like kind of come back from that death in Twilight Princess. He was sentenced to death, didn't quite work. And then at the end, like he supposedly finally dies while saying something very similar to the Skyward Sword thing of like the cycle will continue.
Yeah. You know, I don't think they're going to be super like specific with a lot of the references, but I really fucking hope they are, because we have an official timeline now. Right. And they just never use it or talk about it. It's just like there just to be like, all right, we have one, you know, but like you could use that. You could use that and you could actually like make it make sense within a context of a game. Because right now it kind of like only barely makes sense. Yeah. So if like they actually used it, I think that would be a really good reason to have it. Right. And I think it would be, you know, it could be obtuse enough to where someone who's like new to the franchise is just like, hey, pretty colors. But like the fans are like, fuck, oh my God, look, it's that, you know, like I think that would be really, really cool if they did. And it just, I don't know. The one thing I was disappointed with there's a couple things I was disappointed with the Breath of the Wild, but the main thing was the story, you know, and I'm just really glad that it seems like they're actually injecting like a ton of lore into this.
I think we'll get it more beat by beat, like as you're going through the game. And I like the idea that the lore is more subtle. You don't have to know all of the lore to play the game and really enjoy it. But little Easter eggs like that would make it really fun.
Well, I think we should probably start wrapping up. And so to that point, is there anything you want to make sure we mention before maybe we end with sort of any additional hopes or wishes or anything like that, maybe? Is there anything, Emma, that's... I know you've got a lot you want to share. Is there anything we haven't gotten to?
Honestly, we've touched on the bulk of it.
Okay, good.
There's a lot of this stuff that you could deep dive forever into. If you're interested, come chat about it. But like, honestly, that's the fun of Zelda. I've really enjoyed that like the timeline was a fan theory for so long. You know, Nintendo only confirmed it because everyone already believed it.
Yeah, it was fucking codified. Yeah.
So I think they're kind of appeasing us with some of that, but at the same time, they're so good at just dropping tiny little things. And you can take them where you want, do some puzzles in the background if you want, but you can also run around and be like...
I might just like quickly like jump through the trailer and just say things that I think are fucking hype. Looks like Link is hanging out inside Death Mountain. Hype.
Yeah.
Flying ghost ship. Fucking hype. Mission Impossible laser with a fucking gliding suit. Hype as hell.
Super cool.
Blue elevators. Into it. Wagon carrying people. Love it. Giant gumball machine with a huge crank. There's like a million things in this that I'm like, what the fuck is that? I just want to like be in there and like look at it. It's I'm really, really fucking pumped.
We haven't even gotten into like the skills and abilities that they showed off, but like, come on, they're gonna be super great.
Yeah,
and also just seeing that like the enemies are like chopping down a tree and I know that maybe that's not as dynamic as maybe I don't know, but it just hints that maybe there is some dynamic, and also side and attacking, that maybe there's more dynamic NPC stuff happening in this game.
Yes.
I think there's going to be a ton of it. Yeah.
I think I have some evidence to that, actually. One of the like things they've released as an image was of like a Moblin boss. And in some of the trailers, you actually see like a bigger Moblin boss guy surrounded by minions attacking the villagers. Right. So I think there's going to be literal like fighting units or mobs that you have to get like people to help with. There's going to be more like larger scale battles.
Yeah, like you run into these kind of like emergent kind of like skirmishes happening throughout the area, and you can choose to help them or not. And it'd be great if you don't help them, if they just get fucking decimated, right? Ooh, and it's like, it gives you like an actual reason. I think that was another big complaint with Breath of the Wild, is that no one in the world seemed to give a fuck that like anything was happening. You know, if now there's actual stakes for the kingdom right now, and it's like, oh shit, we lost our princess. We lost the person who was keeping us safe from Ganon that whole time in the first game. Now it's like free reign and they're attacking us constantly. Like that would actually add some stakes and give some urgency to the world, right?
For sure. And I think one complaint people had was just how formulaic some of the enemies are in Breath of the Wild. It's like, oh, okay, I've fought one of those blue moblins a bunch of times. So I think having group dynamics and like slightly different weapons with all the different ways you can build them, it just leads to more like immersive fights and more challenges in how you approach stuff. Briefly, like you mentioned the going through lasers and kind of floating. I'm really excited to see whatever physics they use for falling out of the sky. And some of that goes along with they have more flying enemies. And I really want to ride a dragon. Like, I really, really hope you can ride a dragon.
That'd be great. Yeah, I'm down. Or a fucking fight on one or something.
Yeah.
Right? Like just like running along its back. Like
they've shown one in the background level with the Sky Islands, which implies that now you actually can get high enough. You know, before they were like so lofty, you barely saw them and you could shoot them. But now, like, maybe you could get up and ride a dragon.
You could ride that fucking triangle up to it. You know what I mean? That stone triangle. You have on here is also for a wish list for you, Emma, is fixed durability on weapons. I think they have, and I think that's the fusion ability, right?
I think so.
That's why that exists, right? It's like, oh, your weapon is busted, fuse it with something else, and now you've got an even stronger weapon with better durability, right?
Yes.
So I think we'll be seeing a lot of that.
I think there will be, or just more crafty things we haven't heard of too. Like, it'd be so nice if you did get a unique weapon as opposed to it breaking or you changing it into something else or having to go buy another one with expensive things. Just let us fix it.
Yeah, totally.
We'll see. I mean, that definitely opened up the gameplay a bit, so I see both sides there, but I just want an option.
I mean, I think that's why they have the Master Sword being all corrupted and fucked. So there's a story reason why you don't just have the Master Sword the whole time.
Yeah, that gets into something else I wanted to say. One, story reason you don't have the Master Sword. Two, we had that one shot of Zelda probably back in time with a full Master Sword.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to get the tears to go back in time to restore your Master Sword just by stealing the one from the past.
I'm so hyped. Yeah, I think you're totally right.
Because how else are you going to fix
it? Glue. Glue.
Yeah. Also, where's the Deku tree? Because that's how they fixed it before.
Yeah.
Well, I think that does it, right? Like, I mean, we could talk about this for a while longer, but we should call it somewhere. Does this feel like a good spot?
I'm super, super hyped for this game. I am so excited to pick it apart for another month.
Yeah, same. I just want to play it. I want to sleep until then. I'm like definitely taking a day off of work, and apologies if any of my coworkers are listening to this right now, but don't expect me in office on May 12th.
So yeah, real quick. My birthday is May 11th. So I've always been excited about the date of this because it's I'm gonna stay up on my birthday and play it at 11 p.m. until whenever I want, because it's but I'm also excited to take that Friday off and sleep in because I stayed up all night
playing Tears of the Kingdom. Probably.
Exactly.
I'm excited to maybe ignore y'all for a couple days while I
that's
don't get
true.
spoiled.
If you can't get on it right away.
Last thing I'll say, I can't wait. My favorite thing about Breath of the Wild was like months after Breath of the Wild came out, there were like daily YouTube compilations of just people doing crazy shit in that game. I can't wait until my algorithm is entirely that.
It's going to be wild with whatever you can construct and make.
Yeah. I can't wait for that.
All right. Well, we got to call it. Okay. That's it for our talk. If there's anything you wanted to hear us talk about that we somehow missed on the speculation for this, definitely send us a note. But with that, we're going to end our Tears of the Kingdom discussion and take a short break and come back and talk about the games we've been playing recently. I don't think I have a whole lot to report here. I played some Splatoon. I didn't really enjoy the extra work as much as I wanted to, and I think that's mostly because this time around they made it so you can't play with random people. So I tried to play it with my son, and we got Ivy to play with us, but we were only 3 people, and it's just a lot harder when you're down a person, and so it wasn't as fun. And then the times I could play didn't line up with when other people could. So looking forward, they said that they were going to fix that, but it kind of feels like I wish they had just waited. Because I had just recently discovered private battles, which is the same thing. And so I was like, I like the idea of optimizing waves, but it didn't happen for me. And then other than that, I don't think I've been playing a lot, just like some stuff with my kid restarted Animal Crossing. He started a new island. So I've been helping him with that. And I don't know. He always ropes me into playing like Among Us and Minecraft. And so I've played some of that, but that's about it.
Very good. I'll go next. I did not play any of the extra work. I'm kind of glad I didn't now because it sounds like it was not that good, but maybe next time. I've kind of fallen off Splatoon a little bit. We were talking about it beforehand. But that's fine. I mean, even if I'd never play that game again, I put like 160 hours into that game, so I feel like I get my fucking money's worth. But I think I do still love Splatoon, and I want to play it more. But
that's the thing; you can pick it up at any point. It's okay to not be doing all the catalog stuff. It's still fun to play,
especially now that they added it into the Shellout machine, where you can get stuff that way as well. But I played a little game called. I pre-ordered all the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters and made a group on my Switch of Final Fantasy 1 through 10. So that was a fun little game I played with myself. I'm showing that on the screen for the video users. A while ago, I bought Chex Quest HD for I think 19 cents or something on the eShop, or maybe it was even free. I don't remember. But I finally tried it out. I never had actually played it. And I was like, you know what? I'll fucking play this. Because I played the original Chex Quest back in the day. It was like a fun Doom clone. This one is trash. I played it for about 5 minutes. I feel like it'd be maybe fun on a PC where you have a mouse and keyboard or something. But the controls, there's either you turn and aim really slowly, or you move it up one click and it's impossible to control. So I would not recommend Chex Quest HD for the Nintendo Switch family of systems. Maybe it'd be better on the Steam Deck. I don't care enough to find out. Other than that, I've been playing a lot more of Club Nintendo Picross Plus for the 3DS, Japanese only Club Nintendo perk that you could get that has been translated that I've been playing on my Hack 3DS and really enjoying that. It's like, I've always been like, why don't they make like a Nintendo Picross with like Nintendo characters and like Nintendo systems and peripherals as the things? That's what this is. It's awesome. I got to make a picture of Dixie Kong's face. And
I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. I made an image of the N64 DD in Picross. And so this is my shit. I'm on Cloud 9. I've been playing it constantly while I've been watching Succession. But then, lastly, I just want to, again, shout out Monochrome Heights, Patrick's game. I played through the entire beta, which is, I imagine, is about half the game. Is that right, Patrick?
Yeah.
It's like about half the levels.
That's the idea.
And then, missing like all the cutscenes and story stuff, obviously. But, man, dude, guys, put Monochrome Heights on your radar. Like, when this game comes out, it's going to be very, very good. I mean, it's good now, and it's obviously it's missing like the kind of final polish pass and a lot of the levels, but it's like, dude, I had so much fucking fun playing that, Patrick, and I've replayed it already since then. Like, it's very fun, and I can't wait, A, to like play all the new levels that I haven't played yet, and then B, do collectibles and speed runs and like all that kind of stuff. I feel like you've got replayability in mind with this game as well. And I'm just so impressed with what you've been able to do with this game, Patrick. Like anybody can make a platformer in fucking Game Maker or like learn Unity and like make a little game, but like actually making something engaging that like breaks your brain, but still has like solid platforming. It's really fun, dude. I think this could kind of pop off, especially in like Kaizo and platforming, like difficult pixel perfect platformer circles.
Let's hope. That's the goal. That's who I'm marketing or making it for.
Thank you so much. I could definitely see someone running this at GDQ or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, David. Like, I owe you a big thanks because like already just today, because I got to watch you play it last night and then on Friday night as well, I've spent this morning making lots of little tweaks. And shout out to Dylan, because y'all two are in my target demographic, and then also gave me a lot of good feedback. And where all that overlapped, it's like, yep, that's what I got to do.
This is the shit.
That's all right.
That's good though.
No, it's great. It's just, it's
you keeping in the slide jump cancel?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't wait.
I
want another.
It's day one of it, so but yeah, no, like you've been so helpful and kind about it too. So thank you.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, like you were saying on my stream last night, you're like, dude, thank you so much for playing this. I was like, dude, thanks for making a game literally for me and giving it to me for free. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah, and that's I actually think already with David and Dylan's feedback and the handful of people I have lined up to play it already, I'm probably good on this round. But if you're listening to this and what David just said excites you, definitely send me a note, because I'm, even if this isn't your thing, that'd be good to get a little feedback. And I'll have more versions of these things based on tweaks. So, it's an iterative process and I can use feedback. So
totally.
Let me know.
What about you, Emma? What have you been playing recently?
Not too much recently, but I started playing a game called Cozy Grove. It's adorable. You move to a little island and you have to fix Spirit Bear's problems. It's very much like life sim, kind of cutesy. You collect a bunch of stuff, but they do the real-time thing where like you're supposed to put it down and only play it for like an hour a day. Mm-hmm. It's been fun.
I've heard that game is really good.
It really is. I like that kind of game. Like, sometimes I just want just a cozy game experience where there's a little bit of story, but you also just go fish.
We love fishing.
Yeah, fishing and crafting and all that fun stuff. And cute little spirit bears. So
awesome. Sign me up.
Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, then I think that does it for this week's episode on Tears of the Kingdom. Can't wait for that game. Thank you so much, Emma, for coming on and being so knowledgeable and sharing it with us.
Really happy to. As always, I'm just happy people want to talk about this thing that occupies my brain.
Yeah, that's the whole reason we made this podcast in the first place.
Yeah, it's super, super fun.
Yeah.
And then thank you to milkyway.co for doing our website. Thank you to Corduroy for doing our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick, online, you can find me most places as PDYX.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Emma? Where can people find you online?
Emma Brockway, most places. Emma on the Discord, but that's pretty much it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Always a great Discord conversation with you, Emma. Always appreciate it.
If anyone wants to talk about Zelda, either now or once we learn about it, come join it.
Yeah,
come join Discord.
The Zelda channel in the Discord is popping off. It's going to be crazy in May, dude. I can't wait.
Lots of Ganondorf.
Yeah, lots of that wide boy right there for us on display. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We have a website, switchheadz.com. And then we've got our Facebook group and our Discord, like we were just talking about. Please join us over there. We've gotten a lot of new Discord members recently. So thanks so much. A lot of people that are like, hey, I've been listening for a while and just joined the Discord. We love that. It's really great to see you guys and be able to interact and engage with you. And we're all really chill and open books, and we love to talk about anything. So please join us over there on the Discord. But that's going to do it for this, which is maybe our last episode, probably, about Tears of the Kingdom before it comes out. We keep saying that. We're like, let's do one more episode on Tears of the Kingdom
just
before it comes out. I feel like there's more to talk about, right? And I didn't want to just put this in the news, so I'm glad we did a whole episode on it. And we're going to be back next week. I'll tell you right now, we're going to be talking Advance Wars next week. Can't wait to do that. So if you've got any interest in that game, you want to hear what it's all about, make sure you tune in. But in the meantime, gang, you know the drill. Stay safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Let's fucking finally figure out what this game is all about come May. And in the meantime, we love you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.